Okay. Now we'll look at the process of dynamic graphing. Right, when I am saying dynamic graphing here, right, here when we are seeing in this graph which we have plotted yesterday, year-wise performance, we were showing right from 1974 to 2009, 10, 11, 12, whatever it is. So most of the space is almost wasted off there, right? But when I want to go with, see, actually I would love to plot only that area from 2007 or 8 to 2011 or 12 for this person. The moment I change the name of the person to something else, depending on the years he has played, I want that particular area to be selected and plotted. It's as good as dynamically, I want my graph to select only this much area and do the plotting. If this person is selected, if let's say someone else is selected, if someone else is selected, I want my graph to select right from this area and do the plotting. This area to whatever. If he has retired in the middle, it has to select only up to that area and do the plotting for me. In that case, my graph becomes more and more dynamic rather than me trying to give the location for that graph. So suppose another better example in this case is, let's say you want to plot the graph for your last 12 months data, right? You add the dates from the first month to the 12th month, and after that the 13th month gets added. When the 13th month is added, your graph, when you think of plotting your chart, manually you will eliminate the first one and you will incorporate the last one as a part of the regular charting practice. But probably the first one should be automatically removed from the same graph and the last one needs to be included. That is where I can take the help of this dynamic charts, and one solid Excel function that really helps me in this process is offset. Offset is an Excel function which is quite different from many other functions, because many other functions which we have been using, they return a value. They return some kind of value for the query. Let's say if I say VLOOKUP or match or something, there is some output or answer that comes out. Whereas when I use offset, there is no output that comes out. Offset is actually a selection like this. It's a box. It's a rectangular box. Instead of we manually selecting that rectangular box, we use an offset formula. Offset actually is like a journey. We use the offset formula and instruct the system to go some rows down, some columns to the right or left, and then do the selection of the data. So based on that, what happens is, if I can guide those directions in a dynamic manner, right? If I can guide those directions in a dynamic manner, I can very well plot, or I can very well plot the years where the data is existing, and based on them I can make the chart more and more dynamic. So offset is just like this. So just to illustrate this selection, if I am starting, the way offset takes as a input parameters is start from some location. Let's say you start from here, right? And I want my selection, let's say, to be this for time being. For time being, I am highlighting my location with some color. So let's say I have to start here. I will start here my journey. I'll have to go some rows down to start my selection. I may have to go some columns to the right, but in this case I don't need to go, because in that row itself or in that column itself the selection is starting. Otherwise, if I am here, the journey starts from here, some rows down, I am coming here, some columns to the right, I am coming here. From here, my selection starts where I will include these many rows and these many columns. So instead of we manually selecting that location, the formula with these 5 parameters will actually select that location. And by giving appropriate better formulas inside it, we can make this location completely dynamic. Now if I simply have to see, let's say I start from here always to do the selection for a player. I start from here. Now I can very well instruct that you go, probably for Sachin Tendulkar, I need to go start my selection from 1990. So probably go some 15 rows down or something. 15 rows down, 0 columns to the right, because you are in the same column the selection is starting. And after that, depending on whatever is his last year of playing, so depending on what his first year of playing is, first match, I can pull out the year corresponding to that. Depending on his last year of match, I can pull out the year corresponding to that. The difference between these 2 years, I'll say select these many rows, which will directly give me a dynamic selection. Now let me try that out. So I want to know for this player, what is his minimum year and maximum year of play? When did he start the play? When did he end the game? So what I'll do in my original sheet is, in terms of years and compare and some of the sheets which we have put, I'll also introduce one more field, player year. I'll introduce one more field called player year, where I'll say if this name is equal to, whatever the person whom we have selected, I will say if the name is equal to the person whom we have selected, I'll take the year of that person, of that match. So I'll point it to the year. Otherwise, I'll make it as blank. So we are in that current player year column, I am only filling the years of this particular player whom we have selected, not all the years. Now, because of this filtering, so this sheet will completely be filled. Now you see, this is showing 1991 because the player is this person. So only those locations are filled. Now what I am pulling out based on that input is, for this player, I am simply trying to compute the minimum year, or probably the debut year, and last played year. Minimum and maximum will give me these numbers. Minimum of that column will give me the debut year. The maximum of that column will give me the last played year. So I'll simply say the minimum of this column. So it will say that he has played in 1989. And again, when I say maximum on this same column again, it says that 2012 is his maximum year. Now I'll create an offset. Which will start from here, make a journey. How many rows it has to go down? It will go down up to 1989, which means it will go 15 rows down from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 rows it will go down. Right? So I'll instead of 15, I'll give it as 1989, whatever the minimum year, minus the original year, 1974, fixed for everyone. So those many rows, I'll instruct the system to go down. Columns, don't go anywhere. Let it be in the same column. Right? And now how many rows should I select? Which means after the first 3 movements, rows, it has traversed 15 rows, 0 columns, which means it is here. From here the selection should start. So this selection should start up to this year. So I'll say the number of years the selection should happen is the difference between the two plus 1. So from 1989 to 2012 the selection should happen. So probably the 12 years there and 12 more years here. 24 years the selection should happen. So when I do 2012 minus 1983, I get only 13 years, 23 years. I'll do a plus 1 to get 24 years. So the entire 24 years should go into the selection, whatever is the column or whatever it is, which will make my situation more and more dynamic. Right? Now let's try to implement that. And that dynamic, I'll create an alias name for both those dynamics, one for the years and one for the runs, so that I can plot it on a dynamic way into my graph. The way I am creating the first alias is I am going into this formulas. I am doing a define name where I define a variable called player years. I'll define an alias name called player years, which I will point it to an offset formula. I'll say offset. The starting element for me is this one, as we have seen. This one, then number of rows which I have to go down, which is this number minus this number. These many rows I have to go down. Then number of columns I have to go to the right, nothing. And in this number of rows I have to select. I will select this minus this plus 1 rows. Those many rows I have to select, and only one column. I'll only take the player years, not the runs. For the runs, the only difference that comes is one column to the right. The only difference between the run, for the players and the runs is instead of going 0 columns to the right, I have to go 1 column to the right to do the player selection process. So what I'll simply do is I'll do it for the player runs also again. So this is a name which I am defining as an alias. Now just to check your alias, what I can very well do is here my alias name will be okay. I'll go into my names manager. Here player years. This is the name which I have defined. Now when I look at pointing it here, it will point to this area. This is not an output. This is the location. Instead of we doing a location through a rectangle, it is doing a location like this mechanism. Now the same way I'll define player runs to plot a dynamic chart. Right? I'll define one more variable called player runs. Here also I'll go with the same logic, offset. Again I'll start from here. These many rows I have to go down. This time I'll go 1 column to the right because I want to select this column. I'll go 1 column to the right. The number of rows I have to select, this minus this plus 1. Columns is still 1. Only that 1 column I have to select. Okay. So based on this, I have got one more area called player runs. Now my chart begins. Whatever is the chart I want to plot, or probably if I would like to edit this existing chart itself. This existing chart itself, now let's say I want to edit. All I'll simply do is edit this chart, select data, because this is plotting right from 1974. Now I want to make it plot only for that period. What I'll simply do is I'll go to this runs, do an edit. Instead of this value which we have selected manually, what I'll simply put up is I'll give the name, but yeah, with the sheet name as per Excel 2007 goes, I have to give the name of that spreadsheet also before I give that. Okay, so I think this name is not better, not looking good. So let me save it. Let me save this file. Okay, let me save it with this name so that I'll use this name, right? So I'll again edit this data. Yeah, I'll edit this data, select data. So this time I'll edit it. Instead of this, I'll put it as file name first, dashboards underscore cricket dot xlsx. This is the name of the file, hyphen the name of the thing which we have given, player runs. If I give that alias here, now you see that it will take only that part. Similarly, even the axis, I will make the same thing. Dashboards underscore cricket dot xlsx hyphen player years. I'll give this as the name. Now in this process, let's see if there is. Now you see the years have started only from 1989, right? And now when we do the plotting, the graph is only containing between 1989 to 2010 or whatever. I mean, because the graph is very small, 11 and 12 are not visible in the graph. But let's say I change the name of the player to something else. (1990 to 2005), some other chart is coming out. Right? The whole place is utilized. Right? The moment I am using this kind of dynamic stuff, the whole chart is getting fully utilized. So generally it's always better to club. Now you see for this person, Vinod Kambli, 1991 to 1999 only. So the graph is completely showing a different and full utilization of the graph is happening. Whereas in the earlier case, if this person has played only a small location, it only shows the graph in a very minute area and lot of blank area is left. The moment I start combining everything, literally in all these graphs, I can use that. So offset is really powerful for even for reporting purposes or even for a dashboarding purpose. Anything, wherever you are looking at manually creating a selection, offset can help you to dynamically create that selection. Right? It's all about a journey. From where you want to start, how many rows you want to go down, how many columns you want to go to the right, and what is your selection rows and selection columns. The moment you are able to give all these inputs, it is drawing a box, drawing a rectangle, and instead of giving that manually drawn rectangle as an input, we are creating an alias name for that and using that alias name in the graph location where we are giving the file name and the location of that and the name of that alias. So we can add it to any number of stuff. So probably even if the data is there for a long period, even if my report here is showing all the data, I can very well streamline only wherever the data is visible. But of course, it's just not offset. We have taken a few more fields which will supplement the offset. These two are very important fields here. Finding out the debut year and the last year, which we have done through one formula there on the original data sheet. But making all these modifications, it is at least facilitating a dynamic range. So, I mean, this is the usage of offset. Sometimes these are the most dynamic Excel functions, typically the offset or match, index. They typically point to something and bring the value from some other location. Getting the location and from there pulling out the value. Row. These kind of address based or reference based kind of function, they really help us to create even an Excel calculation more dynamic. As a simple example, let's say I want to add up the last 10 items, last 10 days prices. I want to find the average of the last 10 days price. Without using offset, I cannot do it dynamically, because my data keeps growing every day, keeps adding up every day. I want to add up the last 10 days or last 10 entries, whatever are there. The offset is the one which will really do that that selection, which is automating that manual selection process. It is trying to give that rectangle around that selection region, which is almost like automating the entire process. Right? So in a lot of places, we have actually gone in and manually selected the ranges. And you can very well think of replacing that manual selection part through the usage of offset directly. It will make your dashboard more and more dynamic. Rather than creating 1974 till the last for all the players, even who have played one match or two matches also, if it can plot only those years which they have played, it will really create a big impact. The, yeah, it can show only from the month he has joined. And yeah, you can select only from that month by putting a dynamic thing. We can put the date of joining from where probably a month or something can be derived. And from there only his sales data can very well be plotted. It will not plot for all the periods. Otherwise, right now, you must be plotting it as a whole rectangle. Correct. Uh-huh.